Hey hikers, Lee with Trailside Fitness. In this video, we're going to break down the injury statistics for the Appalachian Trail, Continental Divide, and Pacific Crest Trail. Stay tuned. So first of all, a huge thank you to Mac at halfwayanywhere.com. He does an amazing job putting together all of the data coming in on the Pacific Crest Trail and the Continental Divide trail surveys. And then Zach and his team over at the Trek do an amazing job kind of sifting through all the data coming in on the Appalachian Trail. Without these two websites, their time and their effort, this video would not be possible. So huge thank you to those guys. Tons of great information on these websites. Also, if you're looking to plan to hike one of these trails on gear, logistics, resupply points, all the good things you need to know. So definitely take a look. First up, Pacific Crest Trail. So this graph is going to tell us the percentage of hikers that had to end their hike each year due to injury. We've got high water mark in 2016 of 48%, which is astounding. And it seems like for the most part, folks are on that 20, like mid 20 percentage. And if we actually add up all of these years, do the math, it comes out to a 26% average that hiker is going to not make it out of the Pacific Crest Trail because of an injury. So if we look at the types of injuries and where they're occurring, it's going to open up the window and give us a better picture of what's going on here. So at first glance, there's a lot going on here. We just need to focus on the blue bars, which are the desert, and then the red bars, which are going to be in the Sierra section. And these two areas are important because obviously most hikers that are doing the PCT are going northbound. We know that by the permits that are let out each year. So the larger percentage of injuries is likely to occur in the desert, and these statistics bear that out. 37% of hikers that start the PCT won't make it out of the desert without an injury. In 2021, the year this particular graph comes from, 46% of hikers that started the PCT didn't make it through the desert without ending their hike due to injury. Now, if we look at the types of injuries, they're overuse in nature. Stress fractures, plantar fasciitis, overuse type injuries for the leg and the foot. And it's a similar story in the Sierra section. High water mark there, 37% in 2020. And then overall a 29, also almost 30% chance that if you enter the Sierra, you may not make it out due to injury. And they're the same types of injuries, right? Overuse for the leg and the foot, stress fractures. We've got some knee injuries, some broken feet occurring, which can happen a lot in the Sierra section, just depending on, post holing and that sort of stuff. So, overall mileage completed by these hikers are roughly around 1,200 miles. And the graph here does a pretty nice job of sweeping up to that point. So we're seeing injuries increase as the mileage progresses up to that 1,200 mile mark. And then typically if hikers make it to that point, their bodies are resilient enough, they're managing their aches and pains well enough, they're getting nutrition sorted out, those sorts of things, that we start to see a drop off in the number of people that have to leave due to injury. There's always going to be some measure of folks that aren't able to push past that, and that's just happens. It's the nature of hiking. So with that, let's take a look at the Continental Divide Trail. This particular trail, we've got a high water mark of 40% of hikers in 2019 that did not finish due to injury. And again, if we add up all the numbers, run the math, it's a 26% average chance that if you start the Continental Divide Trail, you are probably going to end up with an injury, according to Mac's survey. So types of injuries here, again, matter. And in particular, we're going to look at the first two bars in this graph, New Mexico and Colorado, the first two states you're going to come to on the Continental Divide, heading north. So New Mexico, 25% chance you're going to encounter an injury there that may end your hike. Particular stress fractures, undisclosed. Well, we don't know what that is, so that's unfortunate. And then if we look at Colorado, a huge percentage of undisclosed type injuries in there. We've also got a tooth injury, which is super unfortunate for some hiker, and then overuse injury for the foot. So if we're looking at mileage completed on the Continental Divide before these injuries creep up, we're in that 1,200 to 1,500 mile range, so fairly similar to what we see on the PCT. This graph was taken from 2019. This is a year where they had a 40% dropout rate due to injuries, so there must have been something occurring around this 2,100 to 2,400 mile range that ended hikes for folks. Appalachian Trail, let's take a look here. So this comes from the Trek. Their data says, hey, every year that we've been doing this, injuries are the #1 reason that hikers are not able to finish. 2021, 47% of hikers that year had to end their hike due to injury. Now, if we add up all the numbers and run the math again, 26%, which is pretty crazy. Each trail comes up to 26%. absolutely crazy how it all kind of worked out that way. I don't recall if it was the Trek that I saw the information or the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. One of those two websites had stated that most hikers get around 25% of the trail complete before injury comes in. So about 550 miles. So significantly less than we would see on the Pacific Crest Trail or the Continental Divide. Now, a few themes did pop up here. My little video is in the way. So a few themes did pop up. Just looking through the survey data, that 42% of hikers on average reported not training for their hike, which is astounding to me as a trainer, but I get it. This also tells me that 6 out of 10 hikers, 60%, are training, which is huge. The more time we spend training, doing the right types of training, the more resilient our body becomes against things like injuries, and the better our odds are of finishing the hike. That's what all this training and stuff is about. This is why this is so important. Across the board, 26% average injury rate for all 3 of these trails. One cool thing that these surveys asked the group taking the survey was, hey, what information would you pass along to the next cohort? What would you tell them? What's your best advice? Every year in the survey, hikers said, hey, train more for your hikes. Regardless of if you finished or not, train more for your hike. You're going to suffer less, you're going to enjoy it more, your odds of finishing are going to increase. Like, all of the benefits are there, and it makes sense that you'd want to spend time training beforehand, which is why we're making this video, kind of highlight that point. Average miles completed before injury is roughly 1,400 on the PCT and the CDT. The Appalachian Trail we mentioned was around 550 or so, based on either the Trek or the ATC info. And then top injury issues, pretty overuse in nature, right? So plantar fasciitis, shin splints, tendinopathy, stress fractures, patellar tendon issues, super common to have these types of issues, and also something you can mitigate with good training. It takes these particular tissues a fair amount of time to regenerate with stress from exercise, to become more robust and handle the stresses of hiking every day with that pack on over the uneven terrain. This is why programs like mine are set up. They help your body adapt to these stresses before you start your trip. This increases your overall odds of finishing happy and healthy. Now, worth noting in these surveys, and I think Mac actually calls this out in one of his surveys, is that, look, these surveys are all voluntary, so people kind of self-select whether or not they're going to participate. And as such, the accuracy on the completion rates, injuries, and other details may be misrepresented or skewed. So for example, if you hiked for a month on the Pacific Crest Trail, you didn't make it out of the desert and you got injured, you're probably not going to take time to fill out the survey. Versus someone who does complete the trail, they want to participate in the survey, talk about how well things went for them, well, maybe some adjustments they could make. And because of that, the folks that do finish these surveys tend to have a higher percentage rate compared to some other compared to, I guess, maybe the actual average of people completing the trails, which at this point is about 25%. Appalachian Trail, Continental Divide, and Pacific Crest Trail put completion rates roughly 1 in 4, so 25%. So as you look at these surveys and see, man, a ton of people are finishing these, may not be entirely accurate. It's just the best picture of the data that we have. And some of these surveys have a small sample size. Continental Divide Trail in particular, in the first couple years of the survey for the trek on the Appalachian Trail, similar story there. So sometimes just that small data sample isn't really providing us the best look at what's going on, but it does give us a pretty good idea of maybe an overall theme. So really, training does matter. And a lot of the hikers that I talk to that reach out to me, they know that what they're doing in a regular gym program isn't the best or isn't maybe going to set them up for success, but they're not really sure what's missing. So they struggle with kind of knowing what to do or how to structure a program. When do I do my cardio? How do I do my strength training? What do I need to do for loaded pack works? What about training hikes? What about recovery? What about nutrition? All these little pieces that come together. My job as a trainer is just to simplify that and say, okay, here's what I can give you based on your time available to train, your equipment, your goals with mileage and pack weight. And I take all the mystery out of that for my clients, and I just give them a program that fits their life, that helps them be successful. Awesome. So let's take a look at how my clients compare percentage-wise against these averages that we identified at the beginning of the video. So we said 25% average completion rate for the PCT, the AT, and the CDT. My clients are nearly tripling that number at 73%. Now, as far as injuries go, we identified 26% average hikers that have to abandon their hike due to injury. My clients are at 8%, so that's a 69% reduction in injuries for my clients. And then 92% of my clients are ending their hike without an injury. They're coming home on their terms, which is a huge win. Last but not least, if you're interested in working with me and want to learn more, comment below wherever you're watching this video. I'll reach out to you, we'll have a conversation and see if you're a good fit for my program. I would absolutely love to help you get ready for your next adventure. I specialize in helping hikers feel strong and confident so that you can enjoy your adventure and not endure it. So if this sounds like you and you've got a long distance hike coming up, through hike, section hike, doing the Camino, want to hike Kilimanjaro, whatever that is, reach out and let me know. I'd be happy to help. Happy trails.